for the longest time, I was trying to make music for people and not for myself. But last year, literally, I was like, hey, fuck it. I'm just gonna make whatever the fuck I want. If I'm happy, I'm happy. Of course, I'm gonna think about the fans and what they hear about me, but in the end, I gotta do what's best for me and what's best for my mental health.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Headliner Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is a melodic bass music artist that's been playing shows all over the country and releasing regularly on some of the biggest dance music labels, including Monster Cat and Insomniac's Lost in Dreams imprint. He's also an outspoken advocate for mental health who's using his platform to make a positive change and impact in the community. This is YETEP.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
My man, it's great to have you on. As we were just saying before we hopped on, it's been quite a long time, I think, since we've connected. A lot of time has passed.
Yeah, I think we've been kind of keeping in touch after attending Icon. I think you're a very select few that I've been keeping in touch with. You've been a really big inspiration throughout the whole journey. So I'm
Oh,
glad that we could. It feels like a full circle. We're doing this thing, and you're doing your
yeah.
own journey. So it's tight.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah,
When
of
when
course.
did you? What years were you at Icon Collective?
Oh my God, I don't even remember. It's been a long time. I think it was like I don't even say like 20. It's like around like a couple years after Slander went. And
Okay.
like Sam's like Jaws and all them went. But I took a
Yeah.
huge after I attended Icon, I took a huge like music break. I didn't even know if I wanted to do it as a career.
Really?
Yeah, so I took like I think like 2 years left, 2 years out, and then I decided I was like, hey, I want to do this. So
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that sounds like a great place to start this conversation. What made you second guess doing music?
I think it's just all like logistics stuff, and also like coming from like very strict parents before prior, like you want to do like they all come from like doctor and lawyer background. Entertainment wasn't really the one that I thought of.
Yeah.
And then after like attending colleges, like I just didn't do well in like studying and stuff. It just never got my attention. I always wonder like, hey, am I gonna get this degree? And if I get a degree and I get a job, would I be happy? And the answer
Yeah.
was no.
Yeah.
And then what makes me happy was music. So I was like, hey, I'm just gonna do this thing, go for it. And then my parents were super supportive. Actually, they kind of were like, we were kind of waiting for you to make this decision because in the end, we want you to be happy. We can't. You gotta be your man and you gotta make your destiny, whatever per se. But yeah, they've been super happy and been going well so far.
So you were going to college before you decided to go to Icon. You were going the typical college route, and then you
Yeah,
realized that this just wasn't for you. You weren't loving it, and you decided to chase your passion for making music, right?
right. Yeah,
And I just first off, I love that because I just am such an advocate of dropping the fuck out of college because unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or one of the like few jobs that actually require you to go through that, it's like I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
I feel like college is so irrelevant, and I don't think nobody cares about a degree.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, society is changing massively. Yeah, I think you're right. I think most jobs don't really care about you having a degree, and now it's like this whole new generation that's coming up. They're watching guys like Gary Vee, and they're seeing
Yeah,
people being entrepreneurs and just making money. And the whole concept of spending a bunch of money to go to a 4-year school is kind of becoming outdated. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the future changes around all of this. And that was a cool thing about Icon as well. It was like an alternative to going to college. Like it kind of was a college, but not. But here's something to go and do if you don't want to go down that 4-year path.
I feel like more so now is because I visited their new campus. It's crazy.
It's wild.
It's wild. I wish I kind of like went during that time because when I went, I think it was like the second rebuild. I think the first one was like the first generation. The second one's like the one in Cahuenga, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah. In Burbank.
Yeah, Burbank. And then there was like a
Yeah,
couple studios there and there, and but the new studio, man, it's just crazy.
it's next level for sure, for sure. And so, okay, so when you graduated though, you had 2 years where you didn't make music.
I just got a job, like a 9 to 5 job. I was making a pretty decent money, but I was just like, that was like one of the roughest like 2 years of my life. I was like so depressed. And actually, the only escape that I was having was like hanging out with my friends or attending like music events, and that's how I got into this whole music thing in the first place, going to like raves with my friends and stuff. and wondering if I could do it. So the only thing that I kept consistently with music was just so my whole background, how I started with getting kind of bigger in a sense, was doing mixes on Tumbler at the time,
Okay.
and not a lot of people were doing mixes at the time, I guess. And then I was kind
Yeah.
of one of the forefront person who were doing the mixes.
Tumblr's kind of a random platform also. Most people don't think about being on Tumblr. Like
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. I haven't even heard that word in a long time, but usually people are on, SoundCloud or something else.
Funny thing with Tumblr, it shaped me so much because it's like a whole different story. But my new EP I'm doing, my whole artwork and everything kind of is like a Tumblr vibe, like what you would expect from Tumblr. But yeah, I just kind of kept it consistently with just doing mixes, and then I was just watching a lot of like YouTube videos on like doing tutorials and music, and just kind of just said, hey, maybe I could do this.
You were making mixes, but you weren't really making music.
No, but I was playing shows actually through doing my mixes, and after like being able to sell like 200 tickets or like locally, and creating some buzz there and there, and people saying, "Oh, hey, I listen to your stuff all the time." I wasn't even making music at the time, so that was kind of initiative. Hey, maybe what if I actually like release my music? Maybe I'll see how far I could get this to go.
Yeah, yeah. So you were building your audience before you were really building like the fans of your music per se, but you were building a brand, you were building a following. And this is really cool. I'm glad that we're starting here because this was one of the reasons that I wanted to hit you up and invite you to be on because like over the years, I just always saw your name on every fucking lineup in Southern California. Like always. Like I was just like, oh shit, there he is again. There he is again. There he is again.
Yeah.
And I always saw your name. And I was like, wow, like how is this guy getting so many shows? So that was one of the things I wanted to kind of hear about was like how you were able to get so many bookings. But it looks like you were building your fan base as a DJ by putting out these mixes first. And then you decided to get into actually get back into making your own productions.
Yeah, it was a big grind, but I don't think people realize. I think even so, like someone like just throwing out a random name, like kind of like Death Pact or like these like Mal P, for example. I think is the best example. They think it's just like all of a sudden like they get successful for nothing or they have like connections or something like that. But I know Mal P, like he had a different alias. He's been grinding it for like 13, like 10, 13 years, before he got to Mal P status. So
Yeah.
I think I just been grinding and just hustling, trying to build relationship. I think the best way to get bookings is like meeting the promoters and stuff like that and building personal relationship, is outside of just doing emails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. So when you say you're grinding and hustling, what does that really look like? What does that entail?
just doing mixes and just watching hella YouTube videos and producing like crazy, to get to where I was like happy. I think my first release did actually pretty well, all independently. I think my second release was like doing remix, like SoundCloud at the time was like a lot of bootlegs. So I did like a
Yeah.
bootleg version of like Tritonal, and they're playing that at like an EDC and stuff. And then I did for Adventure Club, which I got to actually play shows with them because I did the bootlegs and stuff. In a sense, I think I did get really lucky because I get these questions asked all the time, but I think everybody has like a different path that you can't really copy other people.
Dude, I literally just had that conversation. I had a client right before this, and he was just like, what's the right way to do this? And I was like, yo, there are thousands of people out there that are doing it or have done it. And every single one of their paths looks different. And I think
Yeah.
that's actually one of the important mindset pieces to work on and to get over is thinking that there is some sort of right way. Because if you're searching for the right answer, that could become really stressful and you can put a lot of pressure on yourself to be like, oh, I need to figure this out. What's the right way? I don't know the answer. And it's like, when you let go of that and be like, yo, there is no wrong way to do this. You just got to get in the game and do this. And your path might look completely different from somebody else's. I think it's a very liberating thing to realize is everybody's path is different.
Yeah, 100%. I think that could actually correlates to like music too. I actually started thinking like what you just said, like last year actually, because like working with like a lot of labels and stuff, they kind of have a sense of like what kind of songs they want to hear from like that person, from me per se.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a lot of like hate for saying like, oh, this song might sound like generic or this song is like different from what you release. And that actually like fucked me up really hard. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to cuss on this.
You can fucking cuss till your
Fuck, fuck,
face
fuck.
turns blue.
But yeah, that actually, I was stressed out. I was like, I didn't even know who I was at the time making music. I didn't even know if I had like the sound or whatever, or like what people wanted. I think for the longest time, I was trying to make music for people and not for myself. And
Yeah.
that got to be like a deep black hole.
Oh yeah.
But last year, literally, I was like, hey, fuck it. I'm just gonna make whatever the fuck I want. You know, if I'm happy, I'm happy. Of course, I'm gonna think about the fans and what they hear about me, but in the end, I gotta do what's best for me and what's best for my mental health, you know?
Yeah, that's what's up. What helped you make that decision for yourself?
I think every year you kind of think ahead. So I always think ahead. Actually, I think I had to talk with you at Icon a long time ago, but I'm not sure if it was you, but they always said think ahead. You know, like I had to have like a 1 month, 1 year, like 5 year plan, like in my head, just kind of an idea. You know, just said one day I woke up, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna fuck it. I read a bunch of like Reddit comments, and I was going on Instagram comments, SoundCloud comments, and I think it's the worst thing you could do is like compare yourself to other people's success. And that's what I was doing. I'm like, how come I'm not selling this many ticket sales at this location, or how come my songs aren't getting into Spotify playlists? I think that's like literally the worst thing you could do to yourself. That's how I thought. And I still think about that, because this industry is all about numbers. Like how many tickets can you sell? How many plays are you getting? How many records are you getting? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's tough. I still kind of go through that, but I don't know. Do you have any
Yeah.
advice?
Any advice for what? For how to,
Yeah, like kind of overcome. Yeah, just like getting in that thought, I guess.
I haven't really talked about this that much on the podcast yet because everyone I've been interviewing so far, we have talked a lot about business, about how this is a business, right? You're talking about numbers
Yeah.
of like, all right, you want to get numbers in your bank account. You need to have numbers of shows that you're playing and
Hmm.
numbers of fees that you're getting and numbers of tickets that you're selling and numbers of fans that you have. It's like, yeah, for sure. There is the math and science and the economics and the business side. But at the end of the day, where is that balance of being an artist?
Hmm.
And when we look at the artists that really are at the top of the game, they're usually the ones that have kind of created their own lane and they've paved their own path and they're bringing something unique and fresh, sonically and also just with their brand and their vibe and their style and all of it. You think about the Skrillexes or the Kazos, the Porter Robinsons, the Sullivan Kings, the ones that are just like, yo, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I fuck with, and I'm gonna believe in that, I'm gonna trust that, and I'm gonna just sort of follow where my inspiration is rather than just trying to do what I see everybody else doing and maybe what's working in the industry. Because that's where like a lot of people are just chasing what's already being done,
A lot.
what's already working.
A
And
lot, a lot.
again, it's like there is no right or wrong path. That's that path. You can follow that path and you can be really good at it and you can make a lot of fucking money and you can have a lot of fun and you can have a dope career. But I also kind of look at the difference between being an artist and a producer is that a producer really understands the math and the science and the formula for how to create music and how to kind of play the game, whereas an artist is going to be a bit more tapped into their heart and their soul and their
Mhm.
intuition and be a channel for creative energy and some of that woo woo art of flow shit that we used to talk
I
about.
actually
So
love that fucking class. But I think what you said was 100% correct. I think that's what separates people from having like 15 years of career to like, like very short term. It's like kind of like it's a marathon. You could make a lot of money short term, but is your career really going to go that far? But I think what you said is correct. I think you need to offer something that other people can't to stick. You know what I mean?
yeah, and that might be in the music, but it also just might be in the rest of what you're doing because it isn't just about the music. And I think for you, you seem to have a really strong, loyal, engaged fan base,
Hmm.
right? It seems like there's people that they really fuck with you. They're engaged, right? Like the fact that you were able to sell tickets even early on shows that people were already following you even when you weren't even making music. So
Yeah.
there's something else about you that they like. There's something else about you that is giving them a reason to follow you. I mean, what do you think that is? Tell me a little bit about your fan base and what it is that has kept them so engaged with you.
Honestly, I have no idea, but I've been very blessed. But I think thinking back from where I started, there wasn't a lot of like Asian artists doing anything that big. I think they're like really, really loyal. So like for example, like my strongest markets are in like the Asian markets, like California, Texas, like West Coast. You know what I mean? Like in New York and things like that. I think they're very, very supportive. And then just seeing them how supportive they are to other Asian artists like Arm& Hammer, like Jai Wolf, Manila
Yeah.
Killa. So but for me though, it's been hard to even getting outside of that as well, trying to get tap into other markets like Midwest. I do really bad in Midwest. It's weird from playing EDC. like I play EDC. It's like how many people is that? Like 40,000 people,
Yeah.
whatever. Playing that show, and then when I played Tampa the week after, it was to like 50 people. So it's like it's crazy, you know. But
Yeah.
I love it. That's why you do this for a living, you know.
And that's just an interesting thing to think about is will you think of how to strategically win over a certain market and then make certain moves to win over like the Midwest, or do you just continue to just fucking rock what you're doing and it's like if people get on board, they get on board?
I think it's kind of both in a sense, but honestly, I don't know. I don't know what works. I'm just trying to always like just like experimenting what works and what doesn't work, you know, because I actually had this conversation with a bunch of other artists who are killing it, and they're like what you said, their path is completely different from mine, and that what worked for them is completely different, you know. One guy blew up doing TikTok, and everyone's trying to do TikTok right now, and I have zero skill in TikTok or any other reels.
Well, dude, if you want to win over that Midwest market, bro, you got to start flipping some country songs, man. Get those
Ooh,
Midwestern corn-fed cowboys.
I'm gonna get exposed, but I did not like country music that much. I do want to go to Stagecoach though. I'm very open minded. I'm very open
Okay.
minded. Yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
open minded. But
There you go. Hey, man. I mean, I think Avicii did it pretty well. You
he
know.
did, yeah, he did amazing. But he got hated on so much when he first did it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I talk about that example a lot. It was such a great example of an artist taking artistic risks, and I don't think that he
Hmm.
was coming at it from the perspective of I want to win over this market.
No.
I think it was like, I enjoy this music and this is who I'm inspired by. And I'm collaborating with people that I'm having joy and excitement and fun in the studio. And let's take some risks. Like, this is cool. We like it. Let's come out and let's put it out. And I remember that moment. They debuted at Ultra
Ultra,
that
right? It
year
got
and they
booed
came
and
out
stuff.
with like banjo players and shit and
Yeah.
like a whole live band. And everybody was like, what the fuck is this? It seemed like in that moment it was this huge train wreck, but literally a couple weeks later, "Wake Me Up" was the #1 hit, and is to this day is like one of the biggest songs ever. So maybe he
Hmm.
lost some fans, but he gained like
He
millions
gained
more.
millions.
Yeah, and I think that's just like being authentic to yourself as an artist. I think it's when you start to intentionally try to win over certain markets, and I don't know. I think Marshmallow is probably a good example of a brand that's very strategic. Where like, hey, let's do collaborations with people in these markets and people in these
Hmm.
other markets, and it works as a strategy. But I don't know. Again, no path is right or wrong.
I think everything has to be organic though. That's what I believe in. Like everything can't be like forced. I think people
Yeah.
could for sure tell if it's forced, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. What do you find are some of the biggest challenges at this stage in your career? I know one of them we're talking about, like, how do you break into new markets? How do you kind of take it to that next level, build a bigger audience and scale? What else do you find just challenging at this stage?
At the current state right now for me personally is just like finding what's next, you know, regarding my style of music, which so I pretty much got bigger with melodic bass and like feature bass. But right now, it seems the whole market seems very stale. It's just kind of dying out in a way. It just feels like
Mm,
that personally. So I'm just trying to work on my sound, trying to make it, you know, what's next for that would do well, I guess, or what people like maybe. I've been really liking how I started. Like I love progressive house.
yeah,
That's how I started. So I've been trying to kind of incorporate melodic bass and progressive house together. So
yeah.
that's my thing. That's all coming out like I think next year. So we'll see how that goes.
And that's one of those questions, man. It's like it really is the fork in the road of like trying to figure out, where do I go from here? Am I trying to figure out what's working or what people like what other people like, or am I getting in tune with what do I like? You're like, oh, I fuck with progressive house. If that's what's lighting you up and that's what you're excited about, then I'm always gonna support artists and like chasing that feeling of what lights you up. Fuck everybody else. Like, what are you
There you
into?
go. Or maybe I should just make country music. Who knows?
I think here's the thing, bro. I hated country music. I was always the like, I like everything except for country. I was that guy
That's
forever.
how I kind of am right now, low key.
Yeah, check it out, dude. You need to go to Rosarito and spend a weekend on the beach and drink like 45 Budweisers and listen to country, and like at around beer number 10 it will start to click and you'll understand country music. Yeah, that's the only way. It's the only way. At least that's how it did it for me. But
I'm gonna
yeah.
write this. I'm gonna write this down. Update you.
Tell me a little bit more about when, like, the moment that you decided to really go for music and take it seriously. You had your 9 to 5 and were making good money. And at some point there was a moment where you're like, yo, I'm gonna actually really do this. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna put some real effort into this. So what was really going on in that moment? I'm always so curious. I feel like there's a specific moment that people really make that decision. So I'm curious
Dude,
about.
so not even gonna lie, not even being dramatic. It's gonna sound so dramatic. So like when I was at so I was working for Verizon Wireless, and I was making pretty good money. And every break, I would literally just go to like a break room and I would just stare at the wall for like 30 minutes, just not thinking anything. So I was so like, I don't know, it's kind of like brainless, in a sense. 'Cause I'm like, I wasn't happy. And I remember getting checks and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this is cool, I'm making money, whatever. But I literally made that decision. I was like, hey, like I'm willing to literally go broke and go homeless to give it a shot, then stick around with this kind of stuff. And I told my brother at the time, and he said, yo, I've never seen you this sad. Just do it. I think everyone already knows it, but like you're kind of
Yeah.
scared to make that leap. And I was really scared of making that leap because I was so scared to fail. But I tell this people all the time, like, you're already failing if you're not trying. I'd rather live with like me trying and not being able to do this than and thinking like 10 years later saying like, what if I did it? What if I made this? What if like I did this? I could play EDC, whatever. And I am not willing to live with what ifs anymore.
Dude. Yep. Yep. I love that. Man, that was the same thing that got me to quit my job. When fresh out of college, I'd started a financial advising job. I was like a couple months in, and I had the vision of me being like 35 years old and married and successful because I'd been financial advising and I got the house with the white picket fence, and then having to live for the rest of my life with that question of what if?
Yeah.
What if I actually went for it? Right? Because it was kind of like worst case scenario, you go for it and you fall flat on your face and you fucking fail. Like, okay, cool. Well, now
Yeah.
now go back and get the regular job. Regular jobs are
Exactly.
always going to be available, but at least you won't be living the rest of your life with that question.
I think that what if question will haunt you for the rest of your life.
For real. I think it's haunting a lot of people right now,
Yeah.
you know?
I know a few.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a really good chat with Freddie Lane 2 episodes ago, and it was a similar story where she was had a, really successful corporate job, but she was just got fucking depressed. It was just eating her alive,
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like, yo, I'm not happy. And it's like, it can be maybe tough to understand why, but I think getting to the core of like, oh, you're not happy because you're not like you're not pursuing your calling. You're not
hmm
answering your call to adventure. And the more you ignore that, the more it's going to eat you alive.
I respect that. Like, it's not easy to make that. Like, I'm not saying it's easy to just like, because I know a lot of people have different, the paths are different, like some people need to have that job, but I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who work full time and then still do music,
Yeah.
like chasing that dream, so I respect that even more. It's like, you can't always quit your job or drop out of college and, to pursue music. Everyone's gonna be different. But I think if you're just working for it, why not?
No, for sure, man. I think most people that are on the grind, you have to have a job usually of some sort
Yeah.
to pay the bills. And so it's like you do have to dig deep and be like, all right, I am going to work the 9 to 5, and then I'm going to
hmm
also put in the other hours. Something I always share with people is a bit of a perspective shift where, they have their 9 to 5 job and it's like they see that as that's their job. And then the music thing is kind of like the side hustle that they're starting to build. And I think a great perspective shift is that no, the music thing is your job. The nine to
Oh,
five is the side hustle. That's the thing on the side, your main focus and priority. And it's just like when you make that mental shift in your head, it's like, oh, wait, no, this is actually what is most important. If this is my dream, this is what I really want to do, then you start seeing the 9 to 5 as that's the side chick.
I wish I would have like thought about that at Verizon, because I was kind of like, I'm like in jail, like I'm on the music, but Verizon is my job. So I wish I did make
Mm,
that. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Just sitting there staring at the wall.
Staring at the wall. But if I was like, hey, this is a side hustle, maybe I wouldn't have said, stare at the wall.
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, I really do commend you for going for it, for taking that leap of faith and just pursuing it, man, and going getting after it because it looks like it's been working out pretty well for you. I saw that you're about to play the LA Memorial Coliseum.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. That
It's fucking
literally
crazy.
is like literally they had the Olympics there. If the listeners have not seen this, go look up LA Memorial Coliseum. It's like what, like a I don't know 20,000 person.
It's even crazier for me though, a different settlement wise, is that EDC LA was my first rave that I ever attended. So like,
Oh shit.
and after that, what happened? They didn't do any events.
I was going to ask you if you had been to EDC at the Coliseum. What year was that?
That was the last year.
2010.
Yeah, and like when
Oh
Swedish House
yeah.
Mafia played, that's when I was like, I got into like progressive house music.
Yeah, well, it was like I was there too. It was like I think it was Cascade, Swedish House Mafia, and Dead Mouse,
Yeah,
like back to back.
it
I
was
was like,
the whole experience is crazy because like I didn't know when you go in there, it's just very overwhelming for the
yeah,
first time. And I
yeah.
remember when people are hopping over the fences when there was security.
Oh,
I actually got split up with my friends because all my friends made it to the ground and I couldn't get in there.
oh shit. Wait, you were? They were all hopping the fence onto the
No,
ground.
so they were just
Uh, I
storming
remember
down
that.
the to the floor level, and the
Yep.
security guard wouldn't let him. And then I remember my ex, she got her like feet stuck at one of the bleachers. So I was like, fuck, I can't leave her. So I went back to her.
People got fucked up. I remember I was on. We were, it was like they had fenced off the stadium
Dude, people were
seating
hopping that
from the
shit.
floor. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was like a little mini
It was a zombie
stampede.
apocalypse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember like there was like you're trying to have fun and party, and you look over and you just see people getting like
Trampled.
trampled on.
Dude, it's
I was like,
crazy.
this is sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see why they didn't let that, another year happen. But yeah, man, I ended up having a great time and making friends with random people at the bleachers. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
cool.
that's fun. So that's going to be a pretty cool full circle moment for you
Yeah.
to actually be playing on that stage.
I gotta play a Street Shots Mafia song, dude.
Oh hell yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Would you drop the original or would you drop like a remix or
I
edit?
have like an edit I made for that particular vibe. Yeah.
I won't ask what it is because I don't want to spoil the surprise for everyone that's going to be there. But that's epic, man. What a
Thank
cool
you. Thank
moment.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I saw that you did a charity event. You did like your own kind of charity show of some sort. What was that?
So, my manager and I kind of started this thing called Common Unity. I always knew that music isn't as important. I mean, it is important, but it's not like that's all for me personally. And I think there's
Hmm.
a lot of things more important than music. I really wanted to help out the best way I could, and I remember I got that kind of inspiration from my mom. She always asked me like, "Hey, do you want to do the charity events and things like that?" But this is prior for music. She did a lot of church events and stuff. And I started doing like, like Thanksgiving, like those food drives and things like that. But I wanted to like see if like what I could do personally to help out people. So we kind of started with like a toy drive from one of my events. If you bring a toy, if you bring a can of food, you get a free admission to a show. And then we did like a festival in LA, partnering up with like different collectives and stuff and working with other nonprofit organizations to give back. So that's like my main goal too. I want to do like a festival in the future, like kind of collabing with different nonprofit organizations. So if we do shows in like Austin per se, we'll work with nonprofit based in Austin, not just like in California or whatever.
Yeah,
So we're trying to do that like more and more. That's my like biggest goal actually.
I love that, man. I love that tapping into a purpose, right? Especially as an artist and someone that has a platform. It's very easy for this whole thing just to be about traveling and DJing and
Hmm.
partying and coming to the club to like forget about your life or just have that moment of escape. But as an artist, to take some, they say with great power comes great responsibility, right? You do have power and influence as an artist, so it's really beautiful to see you leveraging that for good and to make an impact. Because I'm with you. I think it is about so much more than music.
Yeah, but I think music is so powerful in the sense that it brings everyone together, and then you don't even have to speak the same language. Music is one language. So I think also trying to incorporate that with events with like charity, I think that's great. Like you just by attending these events, you're making a difference. I
Mm,
think that itself is kind of cool.
it's really cool. I love that. Well, if you guys do one in Austin, let me know. I'd love to get behind it and support.
Yeah, let's collab on that. I think
Dude.
that's what I'm trying to do. Also, like working with different like smaller collectives, like music collectives, like different city. I know
Yeah.
even like Sacramento, like all these cool cities have their own collective and have like little like vibe they're going for, you know. So it's been cool to work with all them.
That's sick. What are you tapped into in LA? What are like the collectives or communities in LA that you're plugged in with?
Not so much anymore, but I remember when I was starting out, like Brownies Lemonade was like I mean, they still are probably the biggest collective right now. My manager Sean, he did the Feels collective, and I know there's like a lot of like BTO collective, and there's like all this bunch of cool music collectives around. But I've been kind of just been on my own little shell as of late for a couple years.
Yeah, man. Maybe it's time to start your own. Got to get
Yeah,
the YETEP collective.
you're onto something.
I love it, man. You know, if you could go back and give yourself some advice when you were an up and coming artist, you know, you were maybe just trying to get your first shows, get your first label releases, you know, couple stages back from where you are now, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Man, I think it's all different stages. So when I was first say let's do like this is three stages. So let's do one when I was like starting out. Starting out, I think just don't rush it. I think you should
Mm,
just try to perfect your craft much as you can.
mm,
And maybe like say like the second stage would be like you kind of starting out. I think the thing was I think it's honestly don't rush it. Like I think I rushed with everything. I remember even recent I rushed into like booking agency and then like management or like doing shows because I wanted to play shows. I think you had to be very selective. Even giving meeting new people, you have to be very selective of giving your time, you know, with anything. But for upcoming artists, I think is building relationship with people. And that's what my dad taught me. He's like all about connections with people, you know. I think even me and you, I don't think I would be doing this podcast if I haven't met you and kept in touch, you know.
yeah,
And I think is there's so much more life than just messaging someone through email. I think, you know, you can't really hear people's tone with emails.
yeah.
So I would like to just meet people, even like even meeting the staff members, even like I don't know, people at the venue who like at the green room, whatever. Just introduce
Yeah,
yourself. Be a human.
and you never know when that staff member, you know, then goes on to become the manager and then goes
Yeah,
on to
yeah,
become the
yeah.
talent booker. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
looking at things from long term. I mean, there's so many kids that I kind of grew up with in the industry that we were like interns or we were assistants. You know, we were the bottom of the totem pole, and now my homies are like the freaking senior vice president of Def
Shit.
Jam, and they're like, you know, it's like the people that you kind of you were nobody at some point, but to always go out of your way to develop relationships, to be cool, to be respectful. Like you never know where those relationships are going to go. So
Yeah, I mean it doesn't cost anything to not be a
dude,
dick. So
straight up, man.
so some people are crazy though. I always ask this question all the time. So every show I go like who helps with the like green room and stuff. I always ask them the question. I'm like, hey, who's like the most like asshole story that DJ done? I asked them like every single venue I played, and then some of the stories they tell you is crazy. Like it's very like degrading. It's
Do you ever hear the same names come up?
a couple times actually. I'll tell you off this interview who I heard.
We'll spill the tea after.
Yeah, but some people are crazy, man.
So you said that not rushing, having some patience is important. How do you think that you rushed things when it came to getting, you know, because everybody wants to get a manager, get an agent, get shows. Like
Uh huh.
everyone's so hungry to get out there. Like I hear people talking about wanting to get an agent, and I'm like, dude, you haven't even put out a track yet. You don't even have
Yeah,
your brand figured. You don't have any of this stuff figured out yet. So, how do you feel like you rush that process?
I think. Well, at first, like I did like big no. I was like DMing hella people, like, hey, like listen to my song. That works too. I encourage people hustling and DM them and email them, whatever.
Yeah, shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. Hey, it only takes one, you know? Only takes
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But regarding the like shows, I could say for shows, for example, like I would get these offers, I would just play for money deals. Like just like, hey, this is a cool money, I'll play. And then I noticed that like if me playing at this show kind of hurt me in a sense because I would be using my market and I would have to wait a year later, you know, like can't play. So I got this festival offer I couldn't play because of the mouse radius clause and stuff like that.
Oh, I see. Can you explain that real quick for people that don't necessarily know what a radius clause is?
A radius clause is pretty much where I'll give you an example. So if you play like a festival like Coachella, there's like a big radius clause, as in like you can't play in a certain area within miles within time frame. So let's say you can't play 500 miles within Indio, California, and for like 3 6 months, right? Something like that. But even music too, I would just release some of these songs I regret because I didn't want to wait. And like I didn't want to wait because a lot of these labels like require time for you to release it. Like I have like records that are signed that's coming out like next year, and I signed that in March.
So you didn't want to wait for the label and how long they were
No,
going to take, so you just put it out yourself.
yeah,
And
and it's didn't do well. It didn't do well at all.
yeah, yeah.
But also, but it's kind of weird though. I don't want to say don't rush it, but at the same time, you can't be too patient either. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, you know.
Yeah, I totally get that. Being patient, not rushing the process, but
Well, so you gotta
also
be hungry, right? You gotta
being
hungry and
hungry.
get it out
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So it's
yeah, for
tough. Yeah,
sure.
it's tough.
It's about being hungry and working hard, but also just knowing where to be directing that energy. If your music isn't really, really good yet and you're spending all your time DMing managers and agents trying to get signed, it's like, yo, all that time and energy should be put into get your music dialed in first,
Thank you,
right?
Nick. Actually, that actually brought a good point. I actually did everything by myself for the longest time. Like I made all my artwork. I did all the bookings. My manager was helping me with bookings, but we did this shit ourselves. I was like, hey, we're not getting any show offers, so let's fucking throw our own events. So that's how I kind of started.
I love that though. It's like, yo, if no one's going to give you the opportunity, you create your own opportunity. And I love that because I think a lot of people also are waiting for a manager or a label or or an agent. They're like, I'm waiting for this knight in shining armor to
Hmm.
come and whisk me off away into the sunset and take care of everything for me. Whereas it's like, I love that mentality and that mindset of like, all right, if no one's going to book me, I'll throw my own show.
Yeah, and also even for people who are looking for a booking agent, it took me a really long time. Like I just got signed with my agent like last year. I've been grinding, you know? And I was talking to all my friends and I was comparing myself to people who got signed. Like, how come you can't be me getting signed? Like, I think I
Mm.
play all these shows and I wasn't getting signed, you know? But it's like what we said, like you can't, you gotta you gotta be very patient. Another advice I give is that I don't think any agent or management want to sign someone who doesn't know what they want to do with their own brand because you're the only person that knows how far your brand will go and an idea of a brand. You know what I mean? So they just want to be kind of like assist you, not make a brand for you.
Yeah, you got to have a strong vision, know who you are, know where you're going, know what your brand is. I
Hmm.
think also managers especially they want to see like yeah, that I don't have to do all the work myself. If I sign you, I want to see that you're a hustler. Right? I want to see that you've been building your brand on your own. I want to see that you've been doing your marketing campaigns on your own. I want to see that you have this I'm willing to do whatever it takes kind of work ethic and mindset. That's the kind of person I'm going to want to sign as a manager as
Yeah.
opposed to someone that's just sitting around waiting for somebody to come and do it all for them.
Just a side note, though, I think you'll be a great manager.
I was a manager for a while, and that was kind of how I became a coach though, was because
Oh shit. Okay.
yeah, I mean I managed I managed for like 4 or 5 years. That's how I started working at Icon. I was a manager.
Oh.
Yeah, I worked with Ryan Jaso and Chris White, who used to throw Control, and then I had a relationship with the manager of David Guetta, who introduced me to the manager of the Black Eyed Peas, and I worked with him for a while.
These connections.
Yeah, man, it was great. It was rad. We started the Discovery Project with Pasquale and Insomniac.
Oh,
Like that
you?
was all. Yeah, we
Holy shit. Tight.
started that shit. It was that was Insomniac's kind of original idea was they were going to create almost like a 360 sort of ecosphere where the Discovery Project would find the talent and then we would manage them. We were going to be like the management division, and it just never really happened. They obviously started the record label, which is cool, but yeah, I mean, I did it. But what I realized was like, yo, I liked the mindset side of things. I liked the late night talks. I was good at the parts of when an artist was having a tough day and they needed to get back in the game. I was like, yo, that's the shit I'm really good at and I enjoy the most.
It's your calling, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, being a manager is hard, bro. Being a manager is takes so much.
Dude, my manager is like my therapist.
Yeah. Right. You got
Legit.
to be the therapist, but
Like
you
that
got to
ass.
be
Yeah.
you got to do all of it.
And I
Yeah.
think they get the first blame too, usually too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of thankless work.
Mm-hmm. So I know
Yeah.
it's tough. Wow. That's cool
Yeah.
though. I didn't know you came from that background. That kind of makes all sense then.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's what I was getting at. Was I when I met the owners of Icon, and they were like, "Oh, we're teaching this music business course here," but they kind of had no idea what they were doing. You know, it was a school for artists by artists at that time, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, they're like, you're managing, you're doing record contracts every day, you're like in the game. So how about you come and teach a class over here?" And I would come in, and just for the first quarter, I just came in for 1 hour a week, and I got to teach music business to, like 8 kids or something. And that was my favorite hour of the week. I was literally going into meetings with, the manager of the Black Eyed Peas and Pasquale, and we're talking about all this super dope high level shit. I'm going out to fucking Amsterdam for ADE and going to EDC and all that. I was like, that was super cool. But that hour a week that I got to go in and teach, it just lit me up. I was like, I love this shit. I was like, this is
Damn.
yeah. And so then Icon was like, yo, we could use you here, like, full time. So that's where it all started.
I'm pretty sure I was like one of your students though for music business. I feel like. Did you do one in Burbank as well? Did you teach Burbank?
Yep.
Music,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. That's how I know. Yeah, I actually pay a lot of
Yeah.
attention to that class.
Good.
I slacked off at Icon, man. I'm not even gonna lie with you. I wish I did it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody's ready for it, It's like it's like having the work ethic, the focus, the discipline. I mean, you got to be ready for that. Yeah. How is that now? Are you pretty what's your process like? Like, do you have sort of like a daily system that you follow? Do you produce for certain hours, or are you kind of more like loose with it? What's your process?
So before I was very like I just made music at night. Like I honestly I made music whenever I kind of felt like it back in the days. But now I have a son that was born not too long ago.
Congratulations.
He's like on such a tight schedule. Like he sleeps at 7:30, so I make music, bro. It's been crazy. So I make music like starting like at like 9 to like 4 a.m. and then I wake up at like 6 a.m. for like I've been doing that for like a year and a half,
You've been getting 2 hours of
like
sleep for a
two to
year and a
four
half.
hours of sleep sometimes. Like two to,
How are you alive?
bro. You just gotta do it. Like
That's insane.
yeah. So that's been my life.
You tap into that super dad energy.
Super dad. I think just like I just look at life so differently. Just like yo, I gotta. You got, it's like a different level hustle, like someone's dependent on me.
Mm,
So that's a different type of hustle.
yeah, that's rad. I respect that, man. That's cool. Man, anything else you want to cover or share on this? What else do we need to share with the audience?
I actually kind of want to ask if you want to share. I'm not sure if you do that in this segment. 'Cause I know that you like to give a lot of the artists a spotlight, but like, did anybody? I'm not sure if anybody did this, but I wanna ask you.
Let's flip it, bro. You're okay. You're in charge now. You're the interviewer. I'm the guest, featuring Headliner Mindset, featuring Nick Cherwink.
I'm coming for your job right now.
Let's go.
What's the best advice you would give an up and coming artist?
Man, I think first things first is this whole podcast is really geared for artists that want to like really do this full time, and they want to
Hmm.
make this their career. Because I mean, I'm an artist. I have a guitar. I play my guitar every
Hmm.
now and then on my couch, and I fuck around and I write metal riffs, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I have no pressure to try to do that professionally. I think if you are wanting to do this professionally, I think first things first is to make the commitment. You got to draw a line in the sand and be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do everything I can to make this dream happen, to make these goals happen. Because I think a lot of people kind of have one foot in and one foot out.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that idea of burn your boats. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to quit your job. But a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to kind of try this out and see what happens.
Hmm.
And it's like, all right, if you come in with that energy of I'm going to kind of try it out and see what happens, I'm going to tell you what happens. What will happen is not much.
Not much. I think
But
you're right though. It's like how much effort you really put into this thing.
yeah, how much effort, like, and I'm really big on belief and commitment. It's like make the commitment that I'm going to go all in, and then
Mhm.
also really believe that it's possible, right? You got to have that belief in yourself. So to me, I think that's like the foundation of where it all really begins. And it's like, okay, well, then you can figure out your brand and figure out your marketing and all of that. But that's so much of what so many of my clients are artists that have been doing it for a little while, or like maybe they were doing it and they lost some steam, kind of like you, where you're like, oh, I went to Icon, but then I didn't do it for 2 years and I kind
Hmm.
of lost my steam, or I've been putting in kind of like half energy. And at some point, you're going to have to come face to face with like, do I really, really want this or not?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people that come to me are the ones that are like, shit, like I know if I don't make some changes, I'm never going to make this happen. And so it's like a lot of my work is getting people anchored into the belief, the commitment, the mindset, getting your daily system dialed in, you know? It's like not just making music whenever you feel like it, but like if this is your future, this is your goal and your dream, you got to start blocking out that time and come up with a process that works for you to start making progress.
I think it's tough because when you start out, you do it because you love it, and when you do it, when you do it as a career, you really gotta think it like this is business. And I think it's kind of hard to take a quick switch, but you do definitely have to think it like if I want to do this as a career, it's gonna be a business. Like you're a business, you're a company, so you're literally LLC. You're a company. So yeah, that you gotta really figure out the build a really strong foundation and kind of build from there. I think that's a
Now, this is one of the biggest creative blocks that I also see is that when you start off, it's like I can sit down and write music all day, no problem,
hmm.
because I'm just doing it for fun and I have
Yeah.
no pressure. It's one of the most common creative blocks that I see is once you start to put pressure on yourself for it to be something, for it to be a business, for you to need to create results that all of a sudden, yeah, there's this pressure. And then that pressure gets in the way of you being creative and it can become really hard and really frustrating. Have you experienced that?
All the time. Yeah, that's how I'm at right now. My manager always tells me, "Yo, this is great," but I'm like, "Hey, it's gotta do better." Even like I had this really big remix opportunity, and they gave me like a 2 week time window. I did end up making finish the song, but I didn't end up sending it back to them because it wasn't like the quality that I wanted to show people.
Mm,
But I think you're the worst enemy like, to yourself. Like you always have these thoughts, and you just gotta really think about like I think it's just like your inner demons per se. Like you just have this you're gonna be your worst critic. You know what I mean?
yeah. So how do you actually work through those sabotaging thoughts and those inner demons?
I think just having a really strong foundation, like my manager, my friends who I trust, and even like me. I've been getting a lot of good criticism. I don't know. It's just I think it's just kind of like a switch. Like I know like what's makes me happy, what that doesn't. So if I listen to a song, I get that like little like just a feeling of, like how I started. Like I love making music. I get like all giddy and stuff. But I notice that songs that like I need to fix, I think so much into, like some songs it'll take me like a month or like a couple months to make. That song ends up
Mm,
being like trash. And then
yeah.
songs that like I make like in like a day or like in a couple of days, that's a song that I really end up liking. So it's weird. I don't know.
That's the $1 million question, and that is so much of I think, yeah, that the work that I enjoy doing is navigating that internal voice and just all the stuff that our crazy little brain comes up with, because it's a weird journey. But you're right, like we are our own worst enemy. If we can master ourself, if we can master our limiting beliefs, our negative self-talk, our internal voice and our ego, like that's
Hmm.
where the real work is to be done,
Yeah,
because that also can be the thing that stops people at any level,
any
not
level.
even, even at the highest level. It's like it's still there. We're still human.
I thought about quitting music during COVID. I was broke, man. I maxed out like all my credit cards, everything to try to survive. And I legit thought I was like, is this the end? Because you gotta think rationally too. Like yeah, this is my dream, but like I can't be homeless. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I legit thought about quitting music, and even I was making I had a really really good engagement prior to COVID, and had all these plans and stuff. And after COVID happened, it all fell through, and then I kind of went MIA during COVID, and my engagement was like trash, like it's terrible. Like it was like the worst engagement that I had previously, and I was like, yo, this is it. Like pull the
Mm,
plug. But
yep.
yeah, yeah, I stuck around.
Yeah, what kept you going?
Oh, like I literally looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, yo, do I want to keep doing this and just grind this out? And in a sense, I felt like I was starting all over again, and I actually was. It honestly felt like that, and I did. Like it's kind of the same conversation I had when I was working at Verizon. Like, do I want to do
Mm,
this? And
yep.
the answer was yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That was a tough time though, for sure.
Dude. Yeah, no, I know. I was just talking to Henry Fong on one of the episodes the other day, and he kind of went through a similar thing. I think a lot of artists where it's like that was your income, that's your career, and then the rug is taken out from under you. Like, yeah, what do you do? How do you respond? Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you've stuck with it. I'm glad that you had that conversation with yourself in the mirror. And I think when you tune in and check in with that deeper part of yourself, and if the answer is yes, keep going. It's like, all right, you don't have a choice. You gotta listen to that.
Gotta do it.
Fuck yeah, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on and chat with me today. It's really cool to catch up and to hear a bit more about your story and everything that you're up to. And yeah, man, I really appreciate your time and energy.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for the opportunity. Like, this is a lot of fun.
We are the lucky ones.